My sources inside of the Team Liquid organization have informed me that the Team Liquid roster as a 4-man team, less their most recent pickup, are driving around downtown Singapore in a bus looking for Cadian's address and texting Astralis' manager that they want to undo this trade, okay? That's totally not a meme, because damn do Astralis look good. But let's not get overhyped here. Okay, listen, they're actually, for real, there are a lot of upsets when you look at games like this, which are games that you know the matchup long in advance, especially when you have such a disparity in the importance of the matchup. You see this very often in RMRs, things like that. The first round matchup, one team is like, damn, we got to beat these guys, it's very important. And the other team, I just saw on HLTV confirmed, they rated a 75% likelihood that Na'Vi make it to the final. So you think that Na'Vi are looking at Cadian and going, damn, we're worried about them. That's going to be a really tough matchup. Well, yeah, because they're looking at Device, and that is going to be a pretty tough matchup. Let's be honest here, but you know they are going to be looking past them a little bit. And when you look at the way Astralis play this game, this is how. I mean, this is not only good CS, but we're going to be real here. There's some very clear anti-stratting. Like this is a play and a half. Now, it's a good, fundamentally sound strat, but also that is a ridiculous strat. That is just unbelievable that strat just got pulled off. And then you have other individual plays where players on Astralis were definitely popping off. They were doing really well individually. Now, I have on my second monitor, the second day of Blast starts in 18 minutes. So we're going to power this one through, and we're going to see Stare peeking out on LXV, taking him down. Now, LXV is kind of a Nuke specialist, right? LXV is a player that does really well on Nuke, very specifically, and he actually does really well in this game as well. It's not going to be good enough to beat Stare swinging on him with a Galil. And I mean, in general, I think the most notable thing for me with the Astralis in this game is that they actually look really coordinated with a lot of the little things that they're doing, playing off each other, making smart reads, playing off of contact, using utility effectively, things that usually take a little bit longer, I feel like, to build up with a team, to play off of each other's kind of moments quite as effectively as Astralis is doing. And so it does give me quite a bit of hope for the future. And Cadian simply has not been that bad of a rifler. In fairness, he hasn't been rifling a whole shit ton, right? I mean, he's been doing things other than rifling. He's double offing a good amount and all of those sorts of things, but he is actually looking like a pretty competent rifler at the same time. Now, keep in mind, I am the one observing this game, and it's tough to observe on Nuke, right? But, you know, we're going to do our best here. Just 5-7s really for Na'Vi, so we're going to scroll past this one fairly quickly, but I mean, you just have a lower play from Astralis, and one of the things the commentator mentioned in this game, or the commentators mentioned, is that there is a clear amount of kind of, kind of game planning, or not game planning, but kind of building around the way you're playing in this game. So what I mean by that is that Astralis, and by the way, this gun buddy is disgusting when people put it on the barrel. I can't believe this is a thing. It's not quite as bad, but almost as bad as Ime's view model. But you're going to see that Astralis are really going to focus on hitting lower quite often early in this game. And then they're going to change it up a little bit later in the half to kind of punish Na'Vi if they're over focusing on lower. So in this situation, it's a 2v2, but you kind of can't come up the vent if you're Na'Vi in the situation that we're in. And I think they actually want to try and bait Astralis into thinking that it's like a save, and they were hoping that Cadian was going to go for a peek out and like check outer, and they were ready for the double peek, and then they just make it happen with just barely enough time. I mean, really, I think you're setting it up in Astralis' mind that this could be a save situation, and then they go for it at kind of right near the end there, but Device is just going to shut it down entirely, so you got a 5-0 scoreline. When you're looking at this type of series where Astralis just 2-0 Na'Vi, 13-6, 13-6, I believe both scores were 13-6, you're expecting like, okay, they won all 4 pistols, which is very often, but look at this. This is I think this is key, and you're going to notice why this is important later. I think a lot of players are going to start doing this in a lot of situations, and actually I've seen several players do that, so I shouldn't say start doing it, but he posts up, you know where he's aiming at? He's completely ready for this exact angle. In fact, it's like a perfect pre-aim. Now, it doesn't happen this time around, but you can see there is a very clear amount of like knowledge of the way Na'Vi's playing, and a really clear game plan coming into this game. And of course, you expect that a little bit because Nuke is Astralis' pick. However, they do a lot of this on Mirage as well. But to get back to it, what I meant to say is that you're expecting that, you know, 13-6, 13-6, maybe they won all 4 pistols. They probably started out both games really effectively, and they just kind of snowballed generally. And obviously that's true to some extent. You don't win 13-6 twice without some snowballing in general. However, they actually start out down 4-0 in the second map. So it's not like they just did, like, it's not like Na'Vi never had a chance. And to some extent, Na'Vi had some players that were definitely hitting their shots. Now, one of the things you have here, as I mentioned earlier, setting it up, they went lower a couple of times in a row. You've got Na'Vi stacking towards lower, and you've got this play towards upper where they try and come in through heaven. Now, the problem is they lose a few kills kind of in a row very quickly. Now, this flash is clutch, by the way. That's a really sick flash. Full white jail. And that's why I'm saying Liquid is driving through downtown Singapore. Because like, I don't know. I look at this and I'm like, this is like good CS, right? This is what you wanted to see out of Liquid when they had Cadian, and I feel like you didn't see very much, you know? But anyways, 5-1, and you've got Device going outer with the op again, and you're gonna notice something. Okay, Device gets boosted. There's the nade, and guess where Wonderful is? That nade pops, Device knows exactly where he is. He doesn't have a second of doubt. He knows exactly where Wonderful's going to be when that nade pops there. It's the most obvious spot, of course, but it's, you know, this isn't an accident. They've clearly done a lot of looking at the way Na'Vi play, and I think Na'Vi are just, I mean, Na'Vi have played a lot of events recently. They're kind, you know, they probably have to kind of stick. They can't really readjust constantly, and if you have enough time and space, you can definitely go for some pretty solid anti-stratting, even if Na'Vi is one of the hardest teams, I think, to anti-strat against, like, too heavily, at least from a strategical basis. I think you can definitely anti-strat against them, especially on comfort plays. Every player has comfort plays. There's nothing you can do about it. Here, Jabby comes right back for the re-aggression to try and take down Bit. He knows this is a play that Bit's going to go for. He just knows Bit's going to go for this re-peek, and I think this play is totally fine. He loses it, but I think that's totally fine. And this is kind of just ridiculous what happens here. It's fine to lose that. I mean, that's a play that if it works, you give yourself a really, really big advantage. And if it doesn't, I mean, it's T-side nuke, right? You're not expecting to win every round. And that's one of the things, you know, I mentioned this before. I'll mention it here as well, though. It's the smoothest Molotov miss I've ever seen in my life. That's a play. I've mentioned this before, but it's one of those things where people think that optimal quote-unquote gameplay is playing perfect and never making any mistakes and never giving any opportunities for your opponents to do anything. A lot of the time, if you try and play perfect, because people think that's perfect, they try and play perfect. It's a nice little Bit missed his flash, or maybe he would have considered peeking with that. It's a nice little play, and then Bit's gonna hit a really sick shot here. Playing perfect isn't not taking any risks. If you try and not take any risks, you're going to end up playing too predictable. And if you play too predictable, you actually, it kind of loops back around. By the way, they screwed up the death thing at the bottom, right? It doesn't have, it used to have the headshot symbol at the bottom, and now it doesn't. It says 3. I haven't seen anybody notice that. That means that when you watch teams, that even the ones that are very coordinated, they take risks. And in fact, I mean, Blade said in an interview recently, I think an interview at the beginning of this Blast event, he kind of said a lot of different things, but one of the things he was saying when he did this interview in this specific quote was that, you know, you have to enable your players to, I'm paraphrasing obviously, you have to enable your players to make decisions on their own, because CS happens really quickly, and they have to be able to see a situation, make a read, understand the way things are going, and make their read and make their play in time. Because once they try and communicate that to teammates, if they try and do it too perfectly, or like, you know, if they try and like argue or anything like that, it ends up, you miss that timing, right? And I think that's one of those plays with Jabby there. I mean, a round back now, where he saw a timing and he went for it. But I mean, we're a round away. And that's one of those plays with Ime there, where he saw a play and he went for it and went really bad. And that's the play with Alexis, with JL, where he saw a play and went for it and it went really well. I mean, you see these timings, these openings, the problem is that they have to be done within a framework, and you need to have players that make sense. Because when you players that know what they're doing, because when you do it in matchmaking, everyone just runs out and dies, and they're like, well, I had a play, and the play was running out and dying. That was the play. Was I hope I can run into 4 people and kill all 4 of them without cheating, you know, because they've seen their teammate with an aimbot do it and it works or something, you know. But fast drop into lower, but in this case, you've got Bit in the perfect position, so he's just right in place to get 2. That's such an awkward angle to deal with as a T. And Device, I mean, this is another one of those things that you see very often when you watch FaZe, where this happens a lot with a lot of different teams, but I always cite FaZe because it's the most obvious when you're watching FaZe, is that, you know, you have Device setup where if they get lower, if they get that bomb plant, multiple players are going to drop down vents. He can drop down behind them, or he can just stop them from dropping, and he can make it really complicated for the CTs to get anything done. Instead, he doesn't. It just looks pointless, and sometimes blame F plays look like that too, where it's like you have a really good lurk, but then the play goes wrong on the other side of the map, and then there's really nothing you can do. And this is the last round I'm going to show because I really wanted to show just how good Astralis is looking and how good their teamwork is, and a little bit about the anti-stratting. So this is just a really nice play. So Device runs through the molly, gets to a reasonable position. He was looking for a play, didn't happen. On the other side, you have this play towards ramp. Now, Device isn't going to force this. He took a lot of damage, but he's not going to force it. They're going to try and take down Bit. Now, Bit's in a good position. This is a very disciplined play, by the way. I feel like, well, here's the thing. If Wonderful is a little bit closer, then Bit's going to stay and fight. It's very disciplined for him to drop down with only 1 kill because he could repeak. He almost certainly gets a second, but then he dies and the T's get the AK. And when it comes to anti-ecos, the most important thing is you don't give up your gun, right? You can die as long as your gun is unretrievable. Nice jiggle on a Wonderful, pushes him back, and they're going to push straight onto him, but Device off of that pressure. So like as soon as that op shot it happens, right? They jiggle the player in hell. They know that what's happening with this op. I believe, Alexi B's elbow was just spotted there. He's completely ready for that pivot where Wonderful's falling back and he can just take down Wonderful. Then he's instantly ready for Jail to be in that exact position as well. And then if we look at what happens from Stair, I think what happened is that Device called that Alexi B was there. No, they just have 2 or 3 players there. I mean, this round just absolutely collapsed around Navi, and not because of their own misplays necessarily. They made a lot of pretty good plays. Maybe they could have hit a couple shots a little faster, but what you actually saw was a really well-made strat from Astralis that worked out flawlessly and punished the exact type of play of rotation pattern that Navi likes to make in those types of situations when they start their opera towards heaven, right? And now you've got Stown, who just stayed heaven posted with that op for like 10 seconds, even though he had the bomb. And there's some risk to that. But if you know he's going to land the shot, then I mean, what's worse? He's going to miss that shot. Bit's going to shoot back. Device is holding the exact angle. You just have this perfect situation where you don't allow that swing from Bit, who could, I mean, after he goes away with the bomb, as soon as Stown leaves that angle, there's possibilities for Bit to kind of like win that duel against Device, right? But instead, I think Device had already heard Bit, so they knew that he was coming from there, and that's why they were in that setup. And they just took away any possibility for Navi to win. But day 2 is about to start, guys. Go watch my video on day 2 because you're probably not watching this before day 2 is over. I'm going to make a video on day 2. Tell me in the comments what game you want me to review for day 3 if day 2 is already over when you're watching this, or day 2 if you watch this before day 2. These games happen it's literally they start at like midnight my time, so it takes me a little bit to get to these. But thanks for watching. And if you want more content, join my Patreon. Not because I put any extra content on there since like 2019 or 2020, I think is the last time I put extra content on there. But you can get a demo review if you want, or you can support me because I need it.